live button, so it should be any minute now.
Glass. I used to not have to have glasses.
Okay, we are on live.
Okay, still got one more minute on my phone before I call this meeting to order. Okay, 6 o'clock at my time. I'm going to call this meeting to order. The Administrative and Budget Committee of Barron County Fiscal Court will meet Thursday, March 11th, 2021 at 6 p.m. in the Barron County Government Center Fiscal Courtroom, 117 North Public Square, Suite 3A, Glasgow, Kentucky, to consider the following agenda. So I call this meeting to order, and we're going to be talking tonight about the jail fund budget 2021 to 2022. And one of the reasons that we're doing this early for the public to know, and we thank each one that's tagged in tonight or on, or however you want to say that, by April 1st, it has to be presented to the whole court proposed budget. So the judge, Jenny, Aaron, and jail committee has been working diligently on this year. So we're meeting with the budget committee tonight. Mark Bowman, Billy Houchins, Jeff Watts, I'm the chairman. We'll be letting Judge Hale and Jenny present what they have with the jailer. And I think the jail committee had a meeting the other day. Kenneth Sarton's here with us listening in, and they had some discussion on the budget. So we're here just discussing a little more. So I'm gonna turn it over to the judge and Jenny.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate it. I'm gonna yield to the treasurer. She has put a lot of time in on this, and I'm gonna yield to her now.
Okay, so if you guys will look at your packet, I have presented you with a number 5 budget. In this, we have talked, yes,
I don't have a number 5.
it should have been the first one in your packet.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So we've had a couple meetings with the jailer and his staff, and we have talked about some changes that were made to their initial proposed budget. All those changes are in this number 5. So the change from number 4 to this number 5 budget has to do with the revenue. So if you will open your packet to the second page, where it says receipts budget information, we have added a line item in there. It's called community custody prisoners, and it's for $775,000. Basically what this is the county's responsibility for housing the Barron County prisoners. I have a workup page that I put together to tell you how I got to this number. So if you will look in your packet, let me find what it looks like. This page. It looks a little daunting, but it's really not. Okay, so I had Beth, and she did this really quickly for me. I asked her to send me a report that showed the previous year That would have been year 1920, fiscal year 1920. The report showed the total number of days that inmates were at the jail and the total number of inmates at the jail. Now, we all know that the inmates, they all don't stay the same amount of days at the jail, so I just did an average. So the 2019-2020 report that she gave me showed that the total jail inmates for that fiscal year was 2,670, with an accumulative days of 32,511. So I took that total days, divided it by the total inmates, and that came out to 12.18, approximately 12 days per inmate. So everything I'm doing is going to be is projection and approximations based on these figures. So then I take the total number of inmates, multiply that times 12 days per inmate. That gives me 32,040 days, approximate total days. I take that 32,040 total days and I multiply that times $31.34, which that's the number that you told me to use because you said that was the state, right? Okay, yes. So that's the number I used. So that's how much the state pays per inmate for housing. So we used that number. And we came up to a cost to house the inmates at $1,004,133.60. So that's the cost to house them. So also took the revenue that we have received that year from the inmates paying back to the county and subtracted it from that, which gives us an actual cost to the county of $835,664. So that's what we considered at that time a normal year for them. That was before COVID and all of that. So then I asked her to send me what we did this fiscal year, which I know is not so normal year, but it only includes 8 months so far. So I had to do a little bit of projecting in that. So with this 2021, the total inmates were 1,475 with a cumulative days of 19,269. So if I divide the days by the inmates, we get 13.06, which is approximate 13 days per inmate. So I take the total inmates, multiply that times the 13 days, and we come out with 19,175 total days. I take the total days and I multiply our rate, 3134. That gives me $600,994.50 as a cost for that 8 months. Now to project the cost for the remainder of the year, I'm going to have to take that $600,994, multiply that times the 8 months, and I get a cost per month. So then I take that cost per month, multiply it times 12. That gives me my yearly cost to house the inmates this year. Then I take that cost and I subtract the revenue received, and I had to do a little bit of projecting on that based on the revenue we've received so far as well. And that gives me an annual cost of $714,923. So I thought the fair thing to do was to take a normal year and a not so normal year and add them together, divide it by 2 and get a projected cost of both of the years together. So when I did that, that comes up to $775,000 as a projected cost. I divide that by 12, and that's a $64,583 cost a month for the county to pay to the jail to house our county inmates. That's how I came up with that $775,000 line item.
I got a question.
Okay.
I know the rate that you used The daily rate was $31.34. And that rate was based on what?
Aaron said that's the rate that the state pays.
That's the rate that the state pays for the state inmates each day that we have.
Well, but our cost, the county's cost would be somewhat less.
It's actually more. We've been asking for 14 years for an increase from the state. And the state won't pay a higher per diem. We've been asking for legislation for a higher per diem rate. Well, we were trying to figure out the other day what rate to use. And we asked, how much does it cost a day to house an inmate? And you guys said you didn't know. You said that nobody knows. So that figure can be, so that's what number we decided to use. Well, I didn't. You guys said that's what number you can use. So that's what I did. That's the best number to go with because that number can fluctuate from so many different factors.
So that's what the state pays per day, $31.34.
Aaron, is that statewide? So every county jail in Kentucky,
That's
they're
statewide.
gonna pay that,
Yes, sir.
whatever county it is.
Yes, sir.
Don't matter the size.
If me and you're a state inmate right now, we got shipped out east to any jail, 31.34, going out west, 31.34. Yes, sir.
Since I'm not on, I'm learning a little bit about the jail, trying to. I know Mark went to a meeting or with you all and talked and learned a little bit. I'm assuming we're wanting state inmates versus the county because we're getting that money. Is there, I know the numbers in the COVID how are they coming to you, or who do you see, or how do you get more if we need more to, since we can make some money with them, how are you letting people know that we have room, or how do you do that? I know it may be a crazy question, but
We really don't got room, but,
well, with the numbers
Right now,
compared to
the state-
last year, there should be some room in there.
yeah, there is. But right now, the state, they're not doing any type of transfers or anything like that. Even the prisons, right before I came here, I was in a cell and a young man asked me, he said, I've been here 14 months. I still haven't been sent to prison yet. And I told him, I said, nobody's been sent to prison. They're holding off on that. So what happens is a lot of our guys, say they're Barron County residents and they went to jail, then once they get sentenced, they become a controlled intake, meaning a state inmate. But for them to be able to work or do anything like that, go out on the road cruise or anything, they have to get sent off to prison to get classified. Then they become, if you look on the receipts line, a Class D felon payments, then they would actually become what's called basically a Class D inmate or classified at that time. But for us to transfer out, like say I called Warren County and said, I need 20 state inmates. We can't switch those inmates or anything like that unless it's a security risk at this time. They're just not moving. If this would have been, a year and a half ago, oh yeah, we could swap them back to right, and that could just, be between the jails and working back and forth. But now we have to have permission through Department of Corrections, and it has to be a security risk. But they're not moving anybody anywhere due to COVID.
Jenny, I appreciate you putting all this together where it's pretty easy just to look and kind of get an idea of what's going on visual here. And I know you're projecting we're not at the end of the year, and then I know the COVID just messed you up on trying to figure out numbers and keeping it right. What else do you have? as far as
Well,
that?
I wanted to bring to you y'all's attention
Are
on
we
the
number
first
5?
page. Yes.
Okay.
We added also a line item in here called accumulative leave time. So we know that each department, and it's not just the jail, but it's each department. We have people who quit or retire, and they have vacation built up. and they take that and it eats into the line item. So we tried to do something that would kind of offset that somewhat. So we added that line item in there, and we intend to do that for each department as well.
Great idea. Aaron, I know this is first time you've met with the budget committee. I know you had meetings with the judge, Jenny. You all had a jail committee. I listened in on it. I think I remember on the jail committee that I'm trying to remember back on all, you can't really understand on this Zoom as good as in person. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted it here, where we can actually see face it. On these line items, we have in the past, in our budget committee, we can go line item by line item. I know you and the judge and Jenny have, but do you want, with our committee, do you have anything you're wanting us to look at a certain line item? And you know, we have to April 1st before it presented to the court. I need, you know, if you have any concerns or you got any doubts of any line item where we can look at it. If we have to have, I'm for having another meeting with a joint with the jail committee. I want Kenneth here. I want them to be involved in this budget as much as the budget committee, and try to help you out on the budget. Any concerns? I will bring this up, and I told the judge I've been on some of the continuing ed classes on Zoom, and most of the comments on the jail in the statewide is it's a problem in every county that has a jail. There are just problems as far as just trying in budget. So I'm letting you know that I'm aware of that. It's, you know, a lot of them in the last 5 years that I'm listening to, some of them don't have jails anymore. They couldn't afford them anymore. So I realized by listening statewide, it opened my eyes up that, you know, there are counties that are struggling to meet budget and to even have a jail. So I appreciate, I know I listened in, you all are having your jail committee, and y'all went over some line items trying, you know, I know the jail's getting to the point, I know it's relatively new, but I know the age of it, that it's going to start having little tweaks of things, and that's a killer on budget when you're doing $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 that's coming in. Do you foresee, I don't know if they asked you that or not, in the next year, what do you see that possibly could be a killer on your budget that maybe we're not even seeing here? We need to talk about it maybe tonight, just a minute, I know y'all did on some kitchen item, but what do you see in your other maintenance? Your air conditioners, I know you got the geothermal. Is that going good? I'm just trying to think of, I know.
If you ask my maintenance man, they'll say they hate it.
Mr. Piper, I guess, yeah.
Yes, sir. Those of them, they're not fans of the geothermal at all.
Yeah, I know there's, and I've seen that a lot. There's a lot of maintenance, and it's, I call it, well, anyway, there's a lot I've noticed even in what I do for a living, the more efficient something is, the more it costs to keep that going. And I don't know at the end of, you know, being efficient, but what it costs a homeowner or a county or the state maintaining these, if you really break it down, you know, I don't know the efficiency, if it is efficient. And maybe it's for sure efficient, but I don't know that it's saving you money in the long run.
To answer your first question about having a joint committee with the jail.
Can you go ahead and talk just a little, maybe in the mic? Of course, I know there's other people listening tonight. I want them to be able to hear you.
To answer the first question, I would love, Chairman, if you and Chairman Sarton from the jail committee, you know, if we could set up a meeting that way. I mean, I know there'd be 6 of the magistrates out of 7 that could be there, you know, and speak, since it's a joint committee. And that way, any questions you got about the jail, I know the last few meetings we've had with the judge and the treasurer, they've been absolutely wonderful. Mr. Bowman's been there and he's asked some great questions. Mr. Coomer's been there and asked some great questions. And I want you all to be as educated as possible with the jail and have that understanding. So if I throw out some crazy lingo, you're like, hey, I know what he's talking about there, you know. and have that understanding with it. So I would be more than happy with both committees to sit down and go line item by line item and any questions that arise. I know Mr. Bowman, he actually might be able to answer a few of them now.
Well, I understand on the maintenance end, because that's kind of what it is, because I know that things can happen during a year, and that's why I was wondering if you say, I know the age of it is that's going to happen, just like you had the kitchen stuff. It's that time to do that. So I didn't know. I guess the main thing that I know you all met, the jail committees met. I didn't think I heard a lot of talk or that committee seem to be satisfied with what they're saying as far as on this new budget presented, because that's what I wanted them to be involved in the budget.
I haven't really heard anything back from them, or I haven't heard anything negative nor positive. But I think with all of us sitting down and having an understanding of it together, as both of the committees, I really think that'd be a wonderful thing.
And you do understand, when we present this, we have to present it to the state, and they kick back again like they did last year. So that's why we're trying to tweak things as much as we can, because we know that we don't know what the state's going to do this year.
Yes, sir.
So I guess as far as, and Mark, you and Billy, I seem like I'm doing most of the talking tonight, but this number 5 that's presented, which is basically 4, other than Jenny moved a line item, you're still got your same total that we were presenting to the court. I guess if you're saying any line item we need to look at, or you're fine with that, we need to know, I guess, tonight, if you got any questions, because this is going to keep going on to the next channel, and it'll get presented to the fiscal court.
There's a couple of things that I think we still need to discuss on this before we take it to the court.
Okay.
We had talked about getting prices on a new dryer. So I don't know if
sorry?
you got that. We talked about getting prices for a new dryer
Okay.
for them. I don't know, the last one we got, you guys said 15,000. We're hoping to get another price on that. I don't know if you've done that yet or not, but
Maintenance is working.
okay, so we still want to look at that line item. And then also like to look again at that food line item, if we can work on that
Yeah,
some.
and that's one, too, also like for the food equipment, since we've talked last, our mixer has gone out. Just, right now they got it running, but high is low and low is high, our maintenance men, when they looked at it, it's this electrical switchboard, and they're like, we don't know how long this is going to keep running for the time.
And so what's the price on that?
I used one was.
Is he saying mixer?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody's hearing that.
To fix it, they're looking at about 1,700 on it right now.
To fix what you have?
Yeah, just to fix what we have. And Tony said that.
And this happened since your committee meeting? Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's like I said, things are going to do this.
Yes. And a new one, 5,000. Almost said 7, but it was 5,000 for a new one and 1,700 to fix. And that's another thing on like the food equipment like that, whether it's a mixer, a tilt skillet, anything like that. Our food provider, Kelwell, what they'll do is they'll actually purchase it and then let us make payments on it interest free. So they'll just outright buy it, so we're not paying any interest. They'll do that to help us. It was even like in the jail committee meeting that we spoke about the tilt skillet. That's what they said they'd do. They'd buy it outright. That way we don't have to pay any type of interest on it. You would go through that company.
Okay, you said you had the food line item you were looking
Yeah,
at.
we want to, we still need to look at that. And I also want to bring to the attention of everyone that in this deputy line item, that includes bringing some of those hourly people to salary. So that includes that in there.
Okay.
And that reason is to get rid of their overtime. However, I did want to say that since, I don't know, I don't think we've talked about this, but in line with the vacation, accumulated vacation, if you move these people to full-time and they are salary, they're gonna accumulate comp time. I have found out that we have to pay comp time if they quit. So now you're doubling. Now they're accumulating vacation and they're accumulating comp time. So that's a possibility of biting you.
Yeah, and that's
So
something that
we need to think about that versus what will that comp time cost us if they quit versus overtime.
and that's what we spoke about that too, because we knew that's kind of a double-edged sword. But we're still, gonna, just like overtime, do everything possible to keep that comp time down. It's gonna be it's a work in progress, that's for
So
sure.
then-
I mean,
And just another thing to think about, I just been trying to think of every scenario as we're going through this. And so if you have, and before I ask this question is, how many of those salaries that are gonna be floor deputies and how many are office staff?
4 will be floor deputies, and the rest is all.
How many deputies do you have now that's salary versus what we will have?
right now, salary. I think we're going up to 11, we're adding 6, so that would have been 5.
Right, but out of that 11, you're only gonna have 4 that's floor deputies. So
Yes, ma'am.
basically, if you have overtime, it's gonna be just among those 4.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the purpose of putting all the office staff on salary?
It's only 2 additional, and that's our court liaison.
And that's understandable,
Yeah, and then the
definitely.
other one is Beth,
Okay,
and, I mean, sometimes just like with
okay,
yourself.
yep. So another question I had was if we're gonna be using those 4 floor deputies to prevent overtime, what happens when 2 of them come and say, we're taking comp time? Then what are you gonna do? Are
I
we still
work.
gonna have overtime?
I work.
Okay,
I mean, it's
that's
just
just
like,
a thought. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just
and-
trying to think of all of that.
Yeah, and that's what we do. Even other ones that are on salary, we work those shifts,
Okay, so you have somebody that you can put out there to make okay.
including myself.
Aaron, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What's your shift hours? Is it 8 or 12?
12-hour shifts
12
for
hours,
the
okay.
deputies.
Great.
Hey, Aaron, what we're talking about, is that controlled by the state? Comp time?
Jenny, I think he's.
Well, I talked to the labor board.
I remember when it went in, but
I've been emailing the labor board and they're the ones I'm getting my information from.
Was there another line item that you wanted to specifically look at?
Let's see.
That you wanted to, Aaron, is there a line item you specifically wanted to just look at I mean, I know you had a chance to have that line item presented to your committee, the jail committee, which I thought that was when you would have, if you had a problem with anything, you would have presented to them, but I don't care for you to present it to us, but that's why I wanted the jail committee to be a little bit more involved in this budget time to help get to this step that we're at right now and make sure we got more masters seeing the budget for you and for the fiscal court, that we have a little bit more knowledge of what's going on, because I'm not on that committee. So that's why I'm relying on Kenneth. He's here your committee to tell us if you're seeing problems. And just like this food line item is one of the highest ones besides the salaries, I'm sure y'all had questions this committee, or something, or I don't know the contracts on that, but I don't think the budget committee, I think Kenneth, your committee ought to be the one that's on top of that versus budget time, me, Mark, and Billy going down and saying, well, you need to be cutting deals with somebody. I
they
think that's,
have,
Right,
They have already done that.
right, but I'm
So-
saying that's why I don't think it needs to be, and I know they are, because we're seeing that the budget's, you know, being
Yeah, I was just saying
somewhat.
that they did do that and that was a good thing they did, but I would like to see it reflected on this number because,
May I speak on that?
uh-huh,
The only problem, the reason we didn't cut that on the budget was because right now with COVID and stuff, you know, we can't project what that number is gonna be, especially come summertime. Those numbers could skyrocket. And then if we don't have it in the budget, we're gonna have an upside down budget.
well,
Another,
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that this number, that 338,000 was based on a normal year, not a COVID year.
You're right.
So
So
if,
if we can't
so
project
if
if
that-
next year is gonna be a COVID year or a normal year.
right,
So
but
if
it
we
seems to me
change
like
that
a COVID year would be less people. So if you have a normal year and you got a cut in your trays, then it seems like it should reflect in this normal year number. To me, that's
We
just
could
to
adjust
me.
it a little bit, but if we go and start adjusting that number down too much, and then that money's not there, then we're gonna be upside down. And that's a scary situation to put ourselves in.
I understand
I mean?
that, but I mean, I'm just saying that if you did get a break on your trays, I would like to see some of it reflected in the budget because,
I will absolutely,
You know what I
look
mean?
at, see what we can do, because we did, we got about, what, a 10% cut, and then they did buy us the $30,000 tilt skillet, which was phenomenal, especially with the issues that we're having in the kitchen.
no, I agree with that.
So,
right,
To
look,
explain-
put that money towards that,
Other
is what you're
things, yeah,
saying,
yeah.
instead of
So-
really, that's
Yeah.
what kind of I do in business.
And to
Yeah.
explain a little bit of how they do the billing for the kitchen, it isn't, they go off about the inmate population. So if we have, say, 280 inmates, they'll charge, say $1.10. We have 270, it'll be $1.20.
Oh, I got you.
So
They got
one
you
goes
where they
up and
want
one
you.
goes down, kind of back and forth right there. And right now, I know we dealt with the COVID, this past year and a half, whatever it's been. But right now, we're starting to look like we're going back to the normal as of, speaking of inmate wise. Our numbers have gone back up in May where our average was about 140. Now our average is back up to 259.
I got a question, and I don't know if the committee has asked you this. Do you feel like in the past year that as far as turning it, have you got the money that you turned in to the office staff or whatever, have you got? I know there's no way of ever getting reimbursed or even knowing that number, but do you feel like you've got what you asked for the COVID relief fund whenever, everything that you turned in, you've got back, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
You've worked good with,
And
the
you-
support office, judge executive's office, and, receipts, because with us, we always buy gloves. We've always bought gloves, but we use more gloves now, there's a constant change.
I just want to clarify that nothing for COVID came out of their budget. It came out of the general fund,
Yes.
everything,
Okay.
except their overtime, and then they got reimbursed.
Well,
for
that's
that.
whatever had to do with COVID. I
Yes.
just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that
So I
that
just
went
wanted
back
to make
in.
that
though.
clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. What we do, like on the receipts, with like half COVID,
Mhm.
things like that. And then they would pay their half.
But when you look at these numbers that you presented, Jenny, he's not had the numbers, so it has to be a killer. The COVID had to have been devastating on the jail. Some way or another, when you have that less of numbers of state inmates, to me, that had to hurt your budget. I don't know.
It took a hit, for a few months, and I mean, I hate to say it, our numbers did go down, and the ones that the state or whoever, let out of jail, a lot of them came back unfortunately pretty quickly.
But at the same time, let's don't forget, and I think Aaron did that, Doug Van did. When your numbers went down because of COVID, you reduced your costs. In other words, with your deputies, they weren't working as many hours. And that's that.
We tried
To
to
offset that decrease in the revenue.
So My thought on I was asking, they said they needed a new dryer. I would like to put that in that line item, the renewals and repairs. I would like to add that. They have 18,000 in there. So for this year, they've already used 12,600. So they would need money put in there for a dryer. So they're working on getting me a number for that, a quote for that dryer.
Should we go on and do this mixer?
I believe so, yes.
Well, I didn't hear him.
Should we do the mixer too? I mean, you're already, I mean, since the committee
That's gonna be
meeting,
part of the food
Well, I have a
cost.
question too. On the repair of that one, not saying that's what I'm wanting you to do, but if they would fix that, is that a good fix or is that just a get you by fix?
Pretty much a get you by fix. I mean, it's been there since the jail's been there, and it was also bought used. It may have been used for a year, it may have been used for 5 years. We're not sure on that end of it, but it's been a good mixer up until now. We'll start.
okay, so how many years now to help me remember? How many years is it? That
10 years.
10 years and then it was used, so.
It's used.
Well, I mean, we done that. I mean, we were on, I'm on Tim's committee on the maintenance and we put in this air conditioner here. I was kind of conservative and we kept band-aiding and we finally, that just didn't work. We tried to save the county money, but it ended up, we voted in, we got to get a new air conditioner. And it sounds like to me, Marky and Billy, I mean, I mean, I think he needs a new mixer. We know it's a killer on your budget, but it's just part of, you know, we gotta have to have some grace here and get a mixer, I think. Of course, Kenneth can't talk, but I think he would be in agreement of not putting $1,500 in a 12, 15-year-old mixer.
And, you know,
Repair costs is a third of the cost for a new one. I think that kind of gives you the answer there. Go ahead and purchase the new.
and that's the thing too. I mean, if we look at our food cost right now, we're about, on this one that Jenny has given us, we're about 58%. So we're low on our food cost right now. And that may be something that we look at, that they just bill us every month for, you know, part of that food cost for 12 months. Like I said, they'll buy it outright. There won't be any interest or anything on it. And we just pay a little bit each month. Then maybe at the end of this fiscal year, if there's any money left or where we're at, maybe just be able to pay it off, you know, something in that line. Just have to see where we're at then, or just go another until it's paid off next year.
So would you prefer just to have the 5,500 in plus the food line item, the 338,000 rather than having a separate item for the mixer, 51?
I think that'd be fine in there.
Well, we're not talking about putting that in the new budget.
Yeah,
We're talking
because
about
it's gonna
doing it
happen
now.
before the new budget.
I mean, if it's broken now, you gotta do something
Yeah.
now.
So looking at the old budget, how, well, is that gonna be a killer where we at on the, or the
I'll have
cost?
to look at it.
You know, well, anyway, that, I think at the jail, they may have
We
to have
could just
a
work
jail
together.
committee.
Let's just work together and figure out where we can pull it from and see what we can do.
I mean, that's not their fault when they have a, what was,
I believe, you know, by just looking at the projection now, being at under 60% on that line item, I think it's
Just pull money from there to
from
pay
that
for it.
line, they're gonna bill us on the same thing. They're gonna, like, whenever they bill us X amount of, you know, money for that week or whatever, that month, that's just gonna be added on, a little bit added on. to the
Okay,
cost.
so it's just gonna be added onto your food bill.
Yeah, it's just already gonna be added on there, on that invoice. And again, like I said, they've been really good to work with, when it comes to this. type of
Jenny,
stuff.
does that have to go through the committee on that purchase? I mean, it's not on my line item, so they're gonna have to have one. I don't know the rules,
I
but
don't know the answer to that.
And that was kind of the same thing with the tilt skillet that we talked about in the jail committee meeting. You know, we're already renting it for $1,000 for 1 month, because our other one went down completely, and they offered
I mean, I
to,
think if it's over 3,000, you have to have approval. So I
Yes.
think, yeah,
and
unless, do they have means of a mixer to borrow?
I can check on it.
Yeah, let's check on that and do that, and then we can have, you're all can get with the committee and may have another line item. Unfortunately, you know, that's just maintenance. But if you could check on that, see if they could let you borrow one, which would probably roll right into a purchase, you know,
And that's-
possibly, was probably would, unless there's other people that you can get figures on, but it sounds like you got a package deal with this company. All right, any other,
Yes, so I wanted to bring also to your attention that the jail is paying off the body scanner. So that will not be in their budget this coming up fiscal year. So we are bringing that before the court, actually this next court.
okay, great.
Aaron, is this about what the budget was last year? I don't have the debt service in it. Does it? I didn't see it.
This budget?
Yeah.
It does. It's on the revenue side.
Oh, wait.
Mhm.
So
It's transfer.
any other line items, Jenny, that you wanted to just shoot to the budget?
I don't.
So right now, for everyone that's here and whoever's listening, we're looking at 2807-420.00 is what's gonna be presented to the fiscal court.
Maybe not. That could
That's,
change
that
depending
might,
on these line items. that
but
we're
that's
talking about.
somewhere of what, and that's all, you know, just April 1st. We still have the main, you know, budgets
Yeah,
July 1st, but.
We'd like to have it tweaked pretty good, better than what it is before we present it. to
But
the
that's
court.
somewhere of a number
in
that
that
you all
range.
see that number, that this committee's seen that number, Kenneth's committee's seen it. You know, this is the time, if there's any questions or more questions, Billy, you and Mark have any questions?
What was you talking about on those numbers? Is that the budget that we got here for the new
Yeah,
budget coming up?
On the very back page of number 5, that number
On number 5?
on the very back page is your final budget amount.
But to answer Billy's question, he asked what the budget was last year.
Oh, I'm
If I'm
sorry.
looking at this correctly, it's $2,847,79. Yeah, I see it.
Right beside
Proposed
it.
budget for this year.
Right.
Pretty much same, pretty much like $2,807,000.
And like I,
Pretty much staying consistent.
and like I brought up earlier, this has to go to the state. It does, you know, we're pinching and pulling, and we may end up having to do more than what we're already done. You're, you know, you and the
I don't
judge
think
and
they'll say
Jenny.
we can have more this time.
Don't think so.
Who knows?
They never do that, do they?
It's always good to think positive.
You know, and that's another thing that we talked about too, in our meetings that we've had, with the judge's office is, you know, right now we don't have a contract with the state highway department. You know, we don't have state highway departments out picking up roads right now. But hopefully they get funded, and we can get that back in there, and hopefully we can have classified, inmates that could actually go out and work on those programs, and that would be two, because we took $100,000 just out of one line item because we don't have those contracts. But hopefully, you know, I've been speaking with some of the guys who work at the road department, and they really want them back. I know we in the community want them back, you know, when the state roads get them picked up. So hopefully we can get them back out there, and that will really help us also.
That would be really nice.
Yes.
I mean, that would take away that bottom figure of what the general fund transfers into the jail. That would be awesome.
Yes, and that will help out.
Yeah, and we can always amend it in. We like doing that.
And, you know, I know they're doing their budgets too, so hopefully we'll hear something from them.
Well, I've been here about 2.5 years, and what I've seen in the last 2.5 years, I've seen, we kind of, with the jail committee, the budget committee, Judge Hale, Jenny, Denny before, we've seen, you know, all of us are trying to work together. We as a budget committee, we do all department heads, and we meet with you all. But what I've seen is there's been a lot more unity as far as the committee, jail committee talking. You all seem to be communicating. What I see in the last year, Mark, see the numbers too, that you all done a lot better in managing, even though the COVID, we've seen you managing a little bit more. That's all we're asking for as a budget committee. we're here to try to do, we know you gotta have so much money, but just manage, if you can create any kind of more revenue, I don't know what them means are. I'm not on, I don't know what you can do, but if there's any way that you can find ways, and there may not be any ways, because I don't know, but if there's any way that you can create more revenue after this pandemic, try to do that. Is all we can ask, but I can see a lot more better managing in the numbers this past year, and appreciate that, and
Thank you.
just continue that. And it's hard to, just, when you're having mixers go out, this and that, work hands leaving this, and you're trying to deal with overtime and you don't have enough help. We're trying to understand all that, because I'm not on the committee. I don't know how many people you need. I don't know if you got enough or not, So that's why I wanted Kenneth here, them to be more involved in what you need and what you don't, so they can help say, hey, Jeff, Mark, and Billy, y'all, when you create this next budget next year, they got to have this line item. This is why this is, food line item's not gonna get any better. We don't know that, but that's why if we all work a team together, then at the end of the year, when we create this, it's not just on me, Billy, and Mark's shoulder on trying to tweak, or even Judge and Jenny's. So thank you for what you've done. We will, if there's any more questions, Mark and Billy, I mean, we went over this. I felt like it's been in, you all had several meetings with the Judge. Jenny's put tons of work. I appreciate that. Kenneth had his committee meeting with you. Y'all went over the budget just this last week. And this is just still have maybe a little bit of tweaks. It's, we still got plenty of time if something has to be tweaked a little bit. I would like for you, if you're gonna, have any concern, I think you need to talk to Kenneth. He's the chairman of the jail committee. If you have anything that you need to talk to them, then they can come to our committee and say, hey, this line item, may need to be looked at. So that's what I would suggest to do. Get with it with Kenneth on that. If you see that you're overlooked something that you haven't maybe missed. I know all this is just all kind of created here in the last thing that's been presented. So anybody, Mark, you and Billy got any more questions? Other than that, we're going to have a Tuesday or physical court, and we can talk a lot more on this then. There'll be some other masters that probably going to have some questions, but hopefully you already have the jail committee. They know what's going on. So the only other one that's kind of left would be Carl. He's not on either one of either budget or that one. So Jenny, I really appreciate you doing all this book work. Judge, he's not here. Appreciate him trying to tweak this. And what our ultimate goal is the county has a big debt. Not talking about the jail. The judge is looking at trying to, we're looking at all the budgets, trying to trim as much as we can, trying to get our budget down, our debt down, I'm sorry, so we can relax just a little bit, and then we can start, hopefully giving out a little bit more. But we're in debt, and we're fixing to go, with the new development, economic development, we're going to be getting it. And that's not your all's fault. And I talked to the judge about that we're going to get back in debt, but we don't need to punish all the other department heads just because we're getting in debt, another debt. We got to be careful and not punish the departments just because we as a court decided to go back in debt, and which we need to do that. We got to have economic development, or we don't, you got to have taxes to generate the money to do all this. I don't have anything else to say. Mark, you and Bill.
Yeah, I just say
Yes,
one
Aaron.
thing. On the one sheet of paper that Jenny gave us, it says proposed jail employee pay rates. What we did there, I know, speaking with Mr. Bowman one time, what we proposed looks high than compared to where the yearly salary is. And what we did there, of course, a typical 40-hour week, 52 weeks in a year is 2,080 hours. And what we did, we just did 2,200 hours just for training and whatnot. Because we're gonna have some training that we have to do that's mandated by the state. You know, deputies have to have so many hours and whatnot, training, and then just the annual updated training and things. So that's why we did those numbers. It wasn't where it's an hourly rate that they're looking at there. You know, like the deputies, they get paid $12 an hour. And on there it says, you know, $12.69. It wasn't, they were gonna be paid $12.69 an hour. What that was if we have training and they had, you know, some type of overtime due to yeah, and the 10 holidays were also added in there. You know, that's where we added from 2,080 to 2,200. Just to-
Let's be clear, we're looking at number 5.
yes,
That's number 6, or we not have 3% pay.
no, I know.
No, he's,
Yeah, I was talking about this one here. Yeah, I wanted, in case you had any questions, because, you know, sometimes you look at that like, whoa, everybody, no, wasn't looking at it.
well, in all the departments, you know, your line item, your salaries and the benefits and stuff is what really gets the budget. And that's why we have to really be careful. Like I said, I don't know how many people you need to run the jail. I'm not that, you know, that's where it comes in, you know, that's what is a killer on the budget.
I
at
got
the end.
29 deputies and 1 teacher right now. We're
All
at
right,
30.
any other, and like I said, we're gonna court meeting Tuesday, we can talk a lot more if we need to, but hopefully we kind of ironed out a lot of it here at the committee meetings to where the court meetings, you know, we won't have to be quite as much discussion because we're doing it all in the committees, and that's what I think the committees are set up to do. And Mark, you and Billy, anything else? I really appreciate everybody coming tonight. I know it's been a beautiful day. We waited till the end of the day because rain's coming and we all tried to get caught up, but I appreciate y'all coming in tonight. Billy, you and Mark.
I just want to say I appreciate everything, every penny. Yeah. The hours and Beth. All her hard work that she does. And I think there's been information shared back and forth between us. I think it's definitely educated me in a lot of areas. We have a very good jail here in Marion County. Something that we can be proud of.
Well, there's a lot of counties that don't have a jail that I found out. So yeah, we do. Mark, yeah, we're proud to have that jail. We just try to do the best managing us as masters plus department heads for the people. They voted us in, so let's try to do the best we can. Jenny, again, appreciate you. Judge, wherever you're at, appreciate you, your time you've done. And our committee will be meeting with all the department heads, ones that are on tonight. Start getting yours ready. I'm sure you are. We'll be calling on you all here in the near future. All I need is a motion to adjourn.
They got voted. I think they're gonna have an open meeting. We're gonna be in person.
I second that. All in favor?
I
Aye.
understand it's gonna be